What's up, guys? I recently bought all the Spider-Man Far From Home sets and got the Avengers Tower promo, so those will be my next reviews. Also, Endgame will probably be out by the time I upload this video, and I'll be making an Are They Accurate video as soon as I see it. Anyway, today I'll be doing a review of 76131 Avengers Compound Battle. It comes with 699 pieces, 4 minifigures, 2 big figs, and even 1 Nano figure. I bought it off of Lego.com for $100. Let's get into it. So the first minifigure is Ironman Mark 85, and I gotta say, he looks pretty sick. His torso and leg printing has of course changed since the Mark 50, which makes sense because it's a new suit. The helmet and head printing is exactly the same though, with the blue-eyed helmet from last year making a reappearance, as well as the head with the alternate heads-up display. But the torso and legs are probably the best part. I really like the printing here, even if there's none on the arms. It's not insanely detailed, but it looks really good. The only negative thing I have to point out here are the arms. Since they're not exactly the same shade as the gold on the torso and legs, and they're not printed, it almost makes the figure look like a purist custom, which is what I thought when I first saw the leaks. Whenever I saw a less blurry picture though, I saw the new printing and realized what it really was. It's not that bad though, because at least the coloring matches up with the helmet. Before I move on though, this figure comes with some power bursts and a couple of round 1x1 bricks to simulate his jets and repulsors. Overall, this figure is pretty good. It's what we'd expect for a new Lego Iron Man suit. The second minifigure is Captain Marvel, who is unfortunately exactly like the version of her that came in the Captain Marvel set. Her legs remain unprinted and her hair remains inaccurate. The torso printing is still excellent on both the front and the back, and the face does a pretty good job representing Brie Larson. With this figure, you get a full set of these Power Blast pieces, and according to the instructions, you're supposed to set them up like this. Sometimes she falls over when set up this way, but most of the time it balances pretty well. Anyway, overall, this figure is pretty bad, just like the character. The next figure is Nebula, and this figure is actually really good. She has new face printing that features a different expression than the last one we got, which is something animators like me are really happy about. Before, she always had to be angry, unless you wanted to use the Guardians 1 version with the backwards color scheme. The light blue is where the dark blue should have been, for those of you who don't know. Anyway, Nebula is the only figure in the set to come with a quantum suit. Now, there are like 10 of these in the line, but the printing is actually really good with a ton of tiny dots all over the place and a nice color scheme. The only other thing of note on this figure is her sword, which is just the average Lego katana mold in silver. It's nothing special, but it gets the job done. Overall, this figure has no flaws and was necessary, so I don't have any problems with it. And Outrider is the fourth minifigure in this set, and it is exactly like the ones in Infinity War, with 6 arms and adequate printing on the front and back of the torso. The legs have no printing, which is what's to be expected from such an expendable figure, but the head has good printing at least. There's really nothing else to say about this figure. It's pretty average, and there's nothing really cool about it. Hulk is the first of the big figs in this set, and he's my favorite of the two. Compared to the most similar past version of him, he's a step up. His hair isn't really different, but the new facial expression allows him to be something other than angry. Also, his pants aren't that annoying purple with the Avengers logo anymore. I'd say this is my favorite Hulk figure, but there's that Gladiator Hulk, which is the best big fig of all time. Overall, this figure is one of the best parts of the set. The second big fig is, of course, Thanos himself. Last year, Lego went the casual Thanos, but left the helmet on for some reason. This year, they went with the armored version, which is probably going to be more accurate to the film than last year's was. Once again, we have a different expression for Thanos. He's grinning now that his work is finished. His arms are now printed, which gives him a more completed look, and I'd say that his armor looks pretty good overall. Lastly, he has this hammer now instead of the butter knife from last year. It's kind of funny because we've seen something similar to that sword in the trailers already, but it's for the wrong movie. His other accessory is the gauntlet, which only has 2 stones in it this time, the Power and Time stones. I guess Lego just didn't want to include all the stones in one set, so they just put in 2. Anyway, overall this figure is okay. Lego refuses to use anything but their original Thanos mold, and the printing just dies from the waist down, making the big fig look incomplete. Before I get to the builds, I want to take a look at the Nano figure, Ant-Man. We've gotten one of these before, back in the Civil War sets, but now it has a quantum suit on, which is pretty cool, I guess. It seems Lego's gotten better at printing Nano figs since the lines are thinner and the helmet is more defined. I think this Nano fig is a really good inclusion, whether it's all that necessary or not. Finally, we get to the first of the builds. We get this nice little car with the mounted turret on the back and the Avengers logos on the sides. There's room for 2 minifigures, one in the seat and one on the turret. While it doesn't make much sense for any of the characters in the set to actually use this, I feel like it gets too much hate. It's actually a pretty good looking build, and I really like the design of the sides and the front hood. Overall, this car isn't that bad. The second build is this equally unexciting helicopter that makes a little more sense in this set than the car. The cockpit has a nice control panel and space for 1 minifigure. The windshield does very little to enclose the cockpit, leaving it mostly wide open, which looks kind of dumb. On the front, there's a Gatling stud shooter, which I'm not going to shoot because I lost some from the Quinjet. It looks sort of awkward where the helicopter body is cut off, but it's not that bad. Down along the side of the landing skids, there's some stickered parts and then some clips to carry the figure's accessories. On one side, there's a fire extinguisher attached, which makes absolutely no sense and takes the fire extinguisher inclusion thing to the extreme. The back end of the chopper and the blades themselves looks fine, with the Avengers logo and these 4 tail wings that look pretty cool. Overall, this helicopter is only here to drive up the price and doesn't look that good. On to the main build of the set, the Avengers Compound itself. I'll start with the left wing and work my way to the right. Anyway, we've got this opening gate and garage door that allows the car to be parked inside. Off to the left, there's this radar dish thing that can rotate and tilt in different directions. Up top, there's some stud shooter cannons and a landing pad for the helicopter, which we saw earlier. Around the side, we see a door that opens into the garage along with a nice looking window and a tool rack. The interior of the garage, where we put the car a minute ago, is really simple, with nothing but a couple of pieces to keep the car from rolling out the back too easily. Let's move on to the right wing of the compound. On the roof, there's a spinning spring missile launcher that uses one of those shields originally designed for Star Wars sets. On the right side, there's another Avengers logo and a play function we'll get to later. For this big window on the front, LEGO uses a couple of hinges to create this nice angled look, and they're not really attached, so you can pull them out a little. But that's fine. On the ground floor, there's a keypad and a door that allow access to the interior, which we'll take a look at now. The main room has a rotating computer station, with a keyboard and a screen showing the Infinity Gauntlet. To the left, there's another keypad and some laser bars, which can fold down to allow access. Inside, there's a little stand that you can actually pull out using the play function from earlier. This is where the Infinity Gauntlet is stored, which is really interesting. Anyway, up on the second floor, there's a table and chairs with some stickering on the wall. On it, you can see an Outrider, an Infinity Stone, and some other stuff. Back to the table, you can actually remove the top to reveal a couple of guns underneath. To the right, there's a spinning door system so they can get to the walkway out here, and from there to the helicopter pad. Overall, this build is pretty good. It's a really great playset for younger kids, and while it might not excite LEGO collectors, it's not a bad build. Next up, we have the extra pieces, and this set comes with some pretty good ones. Of course, you've got the extra sword and missile, but what I'm really excited about is the spare Ant-Man Nano figure. On top of that, you also get a keypad and some other useful parts. Overall, this set is sort of a disappointment, though. For Age of Ultron and Infinity War, we got things like the Quinjet and the Sanctum for the biggest sets of the line. For Endgame, we get a fairly simple compound with a garage that takes up half of it. The Thanos figure is hardly better than last year, and Captain Marvel was complete reuse with no printing on the legs. Nebula is just another figure in a quantum suit, leaving Hulk, Iron Man, and Ant-Man as the best parts of the set. The Ultimate Quinjet and the Hall of Armor were far better sets than this in my opinion. I just don't really like this set. And that's it. Like this video if you want to see more like it in the future, and feel free to subscribe. Also make sure you have your notifications turned on so you don't miss out on any of my upcoming videos. Thanks guys.